anytime and anywhere. In fact, 100 million children and young people affected by natural disasters every year. Most of them faced disruption of their schooling. So we have to mitigate this kind of conflict. That's why we have what we call education in emergencies. Education in emergencies is a critical, lifelong saving response that works to protect children in conflict and natural disasters and preserve their right to education. So today, our group will explain the procedure, advantages and disadvantages, when to use, and possible variations of education in emergencies, which is under the alternative delivery modalities.
In times of crisis, the aim is to restore education programs as early as possible to create a sense of normality, provide reassuring routine and continuity, and restore hope for the future. Based on the way in which education is affected, appropriate responses to an emergency include any activities that enable educational activities to continue in a way which is inclusive to all young people. Examples of education in emergencies responses include temporary schools such as tents, straightforward repairs, or easily constructed new structures. Child-friendly spaces where children of all ages can play and interact. They have simple play materials and are supported by adults to process their emotions. Support to existing teachers where they are available, including orientation on psychosocial issues and/or recruitment and basic training of temporary teachers, including female teachers or youth leaders. Support to the formal system so that responsibility remains within the authorities of the country. Support to community initiatives where the state system has collapsed completely or did not exist.
Creation of school committees to give parents some ownership of the process. Alternative schools to provide, for example, accelerated education for older children who have missed out on school, with pathways to re-enter mainstream education. Youth programs such as vocational training, literacy development, and life skills to enable youth participation in rebuilding and productive livelihoods. Support for disaster risk reduction, or DRR, such as identification of and preparedness of our risks. Increasing access to education by timing classes when children are not busy with family survival, providing childcare facilities for teachers,
and providing rations for the most vulnerable.
In this time of pandemic, we need to access education, and this is what we call education in emergencies. Access to education is a basic human right and is linked to better lives for children and youth. Education in emergencies provide immediate physical and physiological protection as well as life-saving knowledge and skills.
In addition, if children and youth receive safe education of good quality during and after an emergency, they will be exposed less frequently to the activities that put them at risk. They will also acquire knowledge and mental resources that increases their resilience and help them to protect themselves. Inclusion in national education systems enhances these protection benefits.
The pandemic has disrupted the educational system worldwide. It causes the teachers to shift with the online teaching learning. Also, the government thinks this as a best solution to continue education despite of the pandemic. But unfortunately, there are some disadvantages of this. And one disadvantage is the technology issue. So with online learning, the internet connection must be stable. So without consistent internet connection for both the teacher and the student, there can be a lack of continuity in learning for the child. The second one is that not all learners have access to the necessary technology to take advantage of the online education. This can also be a great disadvantage, especially to those students who are not well off. The third one is that with online teaching, there is a greater chance that the students will be easily get distracted by social media sites such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So in this case, it will be difficult for the teachers to keep their online class crisp, engaging, and interactive. And the last one is that the increase in screen time. It is one of the biggest concern and disadvantage of this online learning. Sometimes the students develop bad posture and often physical problem due to staying hunched in front of the computer.
In addition, UNHCR stated that education during emergency situations may cause trauma and affect child development. Moreover, it is said that there might be a difficulty in sustaining study skills and reintroducing schooling afterwards. It might be also hard to say or promise things which can bring optimism to the learners or to the people during these events.
The procedures under the Education in Emergencies are aligned with the minimum standards of Education in Emergencies Handbook and are applicable to areas affected by natural disasters, man-made disasters, and complex disasters. According to the 1996 United Nations report, the impact of armed conflict on children, health, psychosocial well-being, and education are the pillars of humanitarian assistance. Education in emergencies is a humanitarian assistance, and it should be noted that maintaining education in armed conflict emergencies prioritize adolescents' needs to discourage their participation in armed conflicts, trafficking, prostitutions, and drug abuse.
Relationship between education and conflict, as well as scientific studies that put these assumptions to the test. We access what we know so far about what works in emergency education based on intervention research. In terms of access, we discovered that limited or inequitable access to education causes conflict, such as reduction to boys and girls have different access to education, and a shorter distance to primary school increases enrollment and attendance significantly for boys and even more so for girls. In terms of learning, education content most likely contributes to or mitigates conflict, though the mechanisms by which it does so are unknown.
So that's all for the education in emergence. I hope you have learned something from it, and thank you so much.